Please all rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome you all to this December 13th public session for the Board of Trustees. And starting off, the usual is the Employee of the Month. And this month we have Sharon O'Donnell. Shannon O'Donnell, excuse me. Which we got both, this time we got both picture and a plaque. And where is she?
In Ireland.
But I'll read you...
We did see her last night.
Yeah, we did. I'll read you what Gary wrote about her. Gary said that he was nominating Shannon O'Donnell for Employee of the Month. Shannon has been promoted to Senior Office Assistant after 12 years of service. She is a great asset to the Department of Public Works, and she politely takes our residents' concerns and finds the best path forward in resolving them. She is a multitasker in assisting not only our residents, but also our DPW supervisors, workers, and contractors. Shannon assists me in sorting through all the government red tape and gets the job done. We are fortunate to have a worker like her who cares a great deal about our village, and Gary thanks her very much from Gary Gillespie, Superintendent of DPW, and Shannon, thank you for your 12 years of service, and you know, I hope you get this shortly because put it on the wall down there.
Nice picture.
Great picture, yeah. Okay, public comment. I think we have Jay Deasing.
Good evening, Jay Deasing, a resident of the village. Just wanted to thank and commend you, the trustees, the village employees, and the decorations committee. It was a fantastic Christmas tree lighting ceremony. And as Bill mentioned to me, it was too good to only do once. But I do know there are always budgetary constraints, and we had so many people members of our organization, who were impressed with how fantastic the program was, that we'd like to be in contact with the decorations committee and perhaps next year try and see if there isn't a way that we can add some assistance so that we continue that level of an incredible quality program and the fireworks and all that goes in. So thank you to the village, to you all, to the employees and the decorations committee, because I know there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into something that is as fabulous as that was. So thank you.
Thanks for the association.
Yeah, absolutely, Jay. Thank you.
Talked to Mark and Bill, and they're thrilled. If they won't be able to do it if somebody doesn't prime the pump a little. And so
okay.
They're thrilled that help might be on the way.
Well, I'm sure that lots of people would like to see us spend our money, so we're happy to do it on good things like that. So that's really great. So thank you.
Thank you. It was pretty spectacular. And I think people would be disappointed if it didn't happen again.
It's funny
You
because
put the bar up pretty high.
Yeah, it's hard to think what you could do next.
I have an associate who's from East Hampton, and they came over. They have been in the theater for years and years and years, but they never realized that we had this the way we had this, and they could not get over it. They said, East Hampton has nothing like this, and how wonderful it was, and they just every part of it. They couldn't stop raving about it. So,
We finally beat East Hampton.
I think so. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe we could even take it out of the police budget or something like that.
Easy.
15 grand don't buy much over there.
Moving ahead,
Please,
On that
quickly.
note,
is there any
Might say
other
something
comments? Anybody else with a comment? Nope. So we move to board presentations, for which there are none, and public hearings, for which there are none, and communications to the board, for which there is none. It's got to be December.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. This is the season.
So we have suggested resolutions.
Okay, item 1, resolve that the reading of the minutes for the work session of November 20th, 2018 be dispensed with, and those minutes be accepted as filed by the village administrator, and the actions taken at that meeting be and hereby are ratified and approved. Have a motion?
I'll make that.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 2, resolve that the claims for the warrants dated December 13th, 2018, totaling $460,853.28, warrant 10 general fund, $52,102.75, warrant 8 capital reserve fund, $95,488.08, warrant 6 expense trust fund, and the village payrolls for the period from November 21st, 2018 to December 6th, 2018 be ordered and approved. Got a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second?
Discussion? Page 1, Above All Chimney Corp., chimney repair to 25 Windmill Lane, $2,700. Arrow International, Inc., ambulance medical supplies, $1,345.50. Atlantic Coast Embroidery, ambulance uniforms, $2,258.07. Page 2, Barnwell House of Tires, tires for the garage, $1,479.32. Bottom of the page, Buzz Chew Chevrolet Olds, flowing on to page 3, $1,693.17. Garage Parts, Carl & Jack's, DPW Clothing, $2,162.46. Carrier Corporation HVAC Service Agreement for 470 Hampton Road, $1,655. Cast Production Video Services for November, $2,040. Page 4, Civic Plus, payment, second annual payment for the website productions, $8,000. Jane Clare, Planning Board Medical Reimbursement, $1,000. Cook Marin and Associates, Insurance Installments, $14,416.60. CSA Employment Benefit Fund for December, $30,361.40. Drivetrain Truck Parts, Fire Department Truck Repair, $1,440. Page 5, Eileen Tui, Accounting Services for November, $1,511.88. SA Plumbing and Heating, RPZ Testings, $1,830. Valquero Tero Treminano, Court Stenographer, $1,250. Firematic Supply, Fire Department Equipment, $3,1163. First Presbyterian Church, December lease payment, $3,000. Fowler's Guarding Service, filling on to page 6. Supplies for the Parks Department, $2,579.84. Goals LLC, PD Uniforms, $2,626.47. General Code Publishers, Code Update, $3,981.87. Grade A Petroleum, Bulk Oil for the Garage, $1,895.14. Ranger, flowing onto page 7. Building Supplies and Ice Melt, $4,558.60. Herrick Hardware, Supplies, $1,460.53. Island Tech Services, Firewall Software for the Fire Department, $2,602. Johnson Electrical Construction Corp., Traffic Signal Maintenance for November, $1,400. Page 8, Compan Inc., resurfacing for the Windward Way Park, $176,740.56. Leventhal Millennium Blinkoff Ethics Training, $2,250. Liberty Ironworks Street Light Post, $3,430. Mayday Communications Ambulance Radio, $9,370. Page 9, Howard McElroy Health Insurance Reimbursement for the year, $4,239.84. Messiano Consulting Grant Writing Services through November, $1,762.50. More Medical Supply Ambulance Supplies, $2,013.96. Morgan Auto Supply Garage Supplies, $1,591.89. Nassau Diagnostics Fire Department Physicals, $4,745. National Grid, November services for the Fire Department, $1,610.31. Norsec & Son, November carting fees, $5,436.23. Page 10, Office of the State Controller, October and November court fines, $20,138.50. Optimum Cable Services for November, $2,210.51. Page 11, Peconic Fire Equipment, Fire Extinguisher Testings, $2,082.44. Page 12, Professional Estate Care, tree replacements for the street trees, $9,181.51. PSE&G for November, $17,171.84. Rico's Clothing, Fire Department uniforms, $4,410.30. Ronco Cleaning Supplies, going on to page 13, $3,525. Sadie Levine Chiaco CPA's audit fee for the current audit, $9,941.67. Southampton Chamber of Commerce, reimbursement for Southampton Fest, $4,000. Southampton Excavation and Development Supply-Way Highs and Dumping Fees, the amount of $5,265. Sprague Operating Reserves, 2 deliveries of gasoline, 6,000 gallons in total, $9,577.20. Suffolk County Water Authority for November, $7,168.31. Sonation Solar Systems repair to the solar panels at the Highway Barn, $2,175. Vince Toomey legal fees, $2,654. Vehicle Tracking Solutions, GPS charges for November, $1,223.49. Verizon phone bill for November, $7,526.37. Verizon Wireless phone bill for November, $3,406.75. And WDB Mason Orphan Supplies, $1,816.50. The Capital Reserve warrant, Alliance System Integrators, fire alarm at 25 Jobs Lane, and upgrade at Betts Hall, $31,432.26. Aries design work for the new ambulance barn, $6,750. Cook Marin and Associates, Builders Insurance for the ambulance barn, $3,028.49. And Mayday Communications, PD radio upgrade, $10,800. Last warrant is the expense trust warrant, Compan Inc., that's the equipment that went over the resurfacing at the Wynwood Way Park, $95,488.08. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item 3, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the attached schedule of budget transfers to eliminate line item overages for the period ending December 13, 2018. Have a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second?
Discussion? Item 1, $1,000 out of Justice Court contractual into Justice Court part-time. Item 2, $1,000 out of clerk contractual into clerk equipment. Item 3, $500 out of DPW equipment into DPW miscellaneous. Item 4, $3,000 out of street lighting electric, $2,000 into street lighting contractual, and $1,000 into street lighting supplies. And the last one is $750 from Cooper's Beach equipment into Cooper's Beach utilities. All in favor?
Aye.
Item 4, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following holiday schedule for 2019. Martin Luther King's birthday, Monday, January 21st. President's Day, Monday, February 18th. Memorial Day, Monday, May 27th. Independence Day, Thursday, July 4th. Labor Day, Monday, September 2nd. Columbus Day, Monday, October 14th. Veterans Day, Monday, November 11th. Thanksgiving Day, Thursday, November 28th. Day after Thanksgiving Day, Friday, November 29th. Half day for Christmas Eve on Tuesday the 24th, December 24th. Christmas Day, Wednesday, December 25th. Half day for New Year's Eve on Tuesday, December 31st. New Year's Day on Wednesday, January 1st, 2020. And 2 floating holidays to be used during the calendar year. Have a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 5, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves Lily Gallo as a probationary member of Hook and Ladder Company Number 1, effective December 13th, 2018. Have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves Joseph Riccardi as a probationary member of Southampton Hose Company Number 1, effective December 13th, 2018. Have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 7, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves a refund of the building permit fee in the amount of $16,875 to Stell Lamont Rouhani Architects as recommended by Chris Talbot, Building Inspector. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the last one is resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the following payments from the Capital Reserve Fund, subject to permissive referendum. Alliance System Integrators, $31,432.26 from the Facilities Reserve, and Mayday Communications, $10,800 from the Major Equipment Reserve. Have a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, discussion items. Second meeting of December is scheduled for December 25th. And typically, we always cancel that meeting, whether due to the holiday, the 23rd, 24th, and that's always subject to rescheduling something if emergency occurs.
So do we
So there'll
need
be
to
no
do anything?
meeting unless we call one.
Correct.
Yep.
So
Happy
moved.
Happy New Year, everyone.
The 25th?
It's not going to be. Nope.
Okay.
Okay, couple items. Over to Wayne, 9 Main Street.
So 9 Main Street is the property just a few doors down from the village. If you recall, this is the proposal where they asked for permission to install part of their septic system, which is an innovative alternative system, partially on the municipal parking portion of West Main Street. The board did adopt a resolution. The resolution was an earlier version. It referred to it as being a license agreement. However, as we proceeded, it needed to be an easement as opposed to a license. And actually, that was picked up by the health department, and the health department wouldn't grant the permit unless there's some permanency. They want to make sure that no one's going to pull the system out under a license agreement. So we have a resolution to basically reauthorize the acceptance of the easement. In the meantime, we actually negotiated and we obtained an actual easement agreement. So we have in our possession the actual easement agreement. It was never in the form of a license to start with, but yet the health department won't accept it with the resolution that the board adopted as a license. So that is in your package to reauthorize the easement agreement.
Now, can we move on this resolution tonight?
Absolutely.
Because I think it's a great thing they're putting that IA system in there.
Right, and it's also in exchange for that pedestrian easement through the alley on the south side of their building, so.
And Wayne, it's the same language from the June, right? It's just...
It's the same, except for the one in June was referring to a license agreement, and it's actually in effect a easement agreement. So it's just changing the terms, the resolution is, but it also reflects the actual document that we've received.
Well, then I'll make a motion to reauthorize the easement agreement to permit 9 Main Street Associates LLC to use village parking lot for the IAOWTS system.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
I have a question on the right-of-way, though. It talks about the right-of-way in here. The 9-foot, is it a 9-foot?
It's half of the 9-foot. The right-of-way they have is
5.5
half on the adjoining
5.5.
property and half on their property, so they
Okay.
can only give us an easement over the portion they own.
Okay. So they're going to, I'm reading it here. Are they going to create, I mean, I don't know what's there right now. Is it just dirt, basically lawn, or what?
No, there's an alley.
No, there's an alley and
Okay.
it's partially paved, I believe.
Yeah.
Are they improving that?
It's already improved.
Oh, okay. All right.
They will be installing drainage within a portion of it, so it'll be
On the alley, right?
improved.
On the alleyway.
Correct.
Okay.
Only on their portion of the property, yes.
Okay.
All right, item 2 is scheduling a public hearing for wireless facilities.
So this is a proposal that the board has been discussing for a few months. Currently, your code defines wireless facilities very broadly and includes basically all such facilities, whether they're located on municipal property or street right-of-way or otherwise, and it requires special exception review and approval by the Zoning Board of Appeals, as well as all other approvals that may be necessary depending on the type of application, which usually involves site plan review, architectural review, and a building permit. So the one standard in our code for special exception, there is actually a standard that has certain priorities for locating such facilities. And the first priority is to locate them on municipal or quasi-municipal properties. But yet, if you were to do that, we add this board's review in addition to all the other 4 reviews. So one of the things we went back, there's certain facilities that are exempt from that review. And basically, there's a listing, some of which are amateur radio stations, pre-existing towers or antennas, and eligible facilities as defined by the state and local laws, which include modification of an existing wireless tower or base station that involves co-location of new transmission equipment, removal of transmission equipment, or replacement of the equipment. You also exempt routine maintenance and in-kind repair. Recently, the FCC, which has had in place regulations, particular that regulate the timing and fees and other restrictions that local municipalities may put on the location of these facilities, and that was in the fall, and they have been recognizing the evolving nature of the wireless facilities, and the wireless facilities in particular, they're stronger, they're in greater strength, but they can be located lower on smaller facilities, particular existing poles, existing towers, and the like. And they adopted another ruling which becomes effective January 1st, and if municipalities already are restricting or have regulations, you're exempt. Those regulations still apply. However, you can't thereafter adopt standards that would affect certain things. And more importantly, for what they define as minor or minor cell facilities, they have shortened the shot clock, the timing in which municipalities can review it, down to 60 days in some circumstances. So one of the things that this board has been considering and has looked at is actually trying to co-locate facilities on municipal property that the village owns. And so as we looked at those things, we found that you would need not only this board's review and seeker analysis, but zoning board, ARB, planning board, and a building permit. And so we have 5 different municipal boards all reviewing essentially the same thing. So the thought behind this proposal is to recognize, one, to promote and encourage wireless facilities to be on our municipal properties, and that we would exempt it from special exception review as well as ARB review and site plan review. Still require a building permit, but this board in the first instance would be reviewing the matter on the municipal property, as you do anyway. You would undertake your seeker review with your consultant's review, as we would, and but in other cases you're shortening that process. The law would allow the board to you would be exempt from the other board's review unless you request it. So it's not required, but you can request that review, and you may do that on a case-by-case basis. The other thing that the proposal was to try to recognize what the federal government is trying to regulate, which is the addition of wireless facilities on existing antenna and utility poles. And we try to put in an exemption for that review, similar to what I just described, but with certain standards, and if they don't meet the standards. So for example, which comes out of some of that backup material that I gave you, that NICOM produced and otherwise, but they indicate by definition these small cell facilities are facilities that are located in an enclosure not exceeding 3 cubic feet in volume. and any associated facilities, support facilities, no greater than 28 feet and so on, 28 cubic feet in volume. And then we also had some other standards that would apply, and including you need to get permission from this board if it's in the street right away or on public property. In addition, you would look for whoever the owner of the pole is, if it's a public utility. You would also look to get input or approval from your highway department if it's within the highway right away to make sure it's not interfering with any of the highway facilities. And if it meets those standards, as this board reviews and authorizes, then they don't need all the other review. If it doesn't meet the standards, then they go back to the special exception review. So the other two exemptions, one would be to look for co-location within an existing architectural feature on a municipal building, such as a cupola. I'll just give one example, the town hall. If you go to the cupola, you'll see a wireless facility in their cupola, and no one really sees it, but it's something where they're trying to promote, which is a stealth type of thing. This would allow that on a municipal building, the village building. In addition, the minor cell facilities that might be on the top of an existing municipal building, so long as it's no greater than 10 feet in height, it's stepped back, it's not visible from the street, you would be able to also review and approve that and not have to go through the special exception review. So that's what this is proposed. I'm sure there'll be a lot of comment. I already have been circulating it, internally, trying to get, for example, I got some additional comments from Bo Robinson today, who, deals with some of the other issues. So I'm sure this board will have more, but I think we need to get it out there for discussion, and that's what the proposal is.
Good. Well, I think it's pretty important to move as quickly as we can on this, because with the advent of repeaters and smaller units, that it can be, installation becomes easier for these individuals. That you're going to see more and more of it.
And most likely, they'll be focusing in on our telephone poles or anything that's tall, because it gives them a better reception, like a water tower, or, as you mentioned, town hall. But
Or the village hall.
Or the village hall.
Or other village
Right,
buildings,
right.
the highway department, whatever.
Tall buildings, so,
And it doesn't have to be tall buildings anymore. I'll just give you an example. The town has a similar approach. They have a much expansive, and they have a tiered approach of reviewing these facilities, and they deal with minor cell facilities. In particular, and I'll just, on the North Highway, where I think it was Beaufort Marine had a store on the south side across from that little shopping center area. About, I'd say 10 months ago or 11 months ago, you would have noticed that on top of that building, which is no more than 30 feet high, actually a set of antennas went up, and they actually put a facade across the front of it, and you wouldn't know the facility is there, but that's the nature of the facilities now. The strength of the facilities can go only like 35 feet in height. And so that was done pursuant to their code. It didn't have to go through all the other review. It was done as a minor facility. It met height requirements. It screened. So that was something that actually just went through the building department in the town.
so I guess the issue we have is that shot clock is 60 days, and we have to review it
That's
in
right.
that time period.
And I think, and really it puts a burden on the applicant, depending on the type of facility. Who owns the property, or is it in the street or right away? Who's the street? We left it not just public streets, because there might be private roads. And first thing you'll need is who's the owner of the road, make sure they have given permission, if you're on a pole in a street like that, so.
So the question that I think some of us already got on this was, the concern was, could the cell providers put 20 of these devices up on a pole, and it would look like barnacles on a boat? that was the one kind of aesthetic issue that I think is a fair question.
Well, in the standard, so, and this is where the federal government is leaning towards municipalities. They want to make sure your regulations are reasonable and that you're not preventing the installation of facilities. And so they're going to look at things like what you're suggesting. So that goes to like a density requirement. Our regulations, as we drafted here, said only one such facility on one pole. So you're not putting more than one. And the other thing is we put in a standard, and we may need to look at this, but they have to be spaced at least 300 feet apart. So you're not having, all of a sudden there's one prime location and 20 facilities all want to be in that one spot. So you want to, at least if you're going to do it, from a health, safety, and welfare and aesthetic standpoint, maybe spread the wealth, and I think that is probably what the industry is doing anyway.
So if something comes before the board, and there's a thought process of possibly doing it on a municipal building that really sits in a residential neighborhood, will the public be involved in that?
You always, in the first instance, if it's a municipal building, you're the first. We're talking about village buildings, so you're the first place, and I would suspect you would have a public hearing. There's nothing in our regulations that require it, but I would suspect you're going to have it.
But it would have to move quickly because it has to be done in 60
Right, but you're
days.
also, you're going to be, in the case of the municipal building, looking at a lease, and, at the same time, and that's subject to seeker and as well as the application process. So once you review it and you're approving the lease, and my recommendation always when you're dealing with a lease like that would to have a public hearing on it, so everybody's familiar with what the facility is as well as the terms of the lease. And then thereafter, all that would be required, assuming you approve it and approve the seeker analysis or whatever goes along with the request, is they would go to the building department and that would meet probably the shot clock review. So that's the intent. Again, it's the small cell facilities and it's not a tower. If you recall, you were contemplating a tower at the police station, and that clearly would not be exempt under these rules. That requires the full special exception, all the board's review in those instances. But the intent, I'm sure there's a number of ways to skin the cat, and I think the key is to get it out there in the discussion, and at some point, I'm sure we'll all have our own comments. Every time I look at it, I have another thought, so.
And that doesn't mean we couldn't reach out to the ARB who looks at things from an aesthetic standpoint
Oh, absolutely,
to say,
yeah.
what do you think of this?
Absolutely, and you could actually require that review, but again, you're talking about your review, and if you want the municipality agencies to review, you can request that review.
Right.
But normally, in most zoning matters, you're actually exempt from the applicant, reviewing, going through site plan and everything else. So unless this board expressly requires it or the code expressly requires it. So this is one area of the code that it expressly requires special exception review regardless of whether you're in a municipal building or not.
Any other comments? Bill, do you have any comments?
So this resolution would look to hold a public hearing on your first meeting in January. That's the first suggestion. There's 3 other proposed local laws, and Steve's looking at me going, I think you want to do these in February. No. Clearly, when I sent him over, he said, we're not doing all 4 on one meeting. So
Not with these topics.
So the first 2 would be on January 10th, and the other 2 would be the second meeting in January. So that's the suggestion. You could certainly push it out if you want, but that's the thought.
From what I understand, January 22nd, we have a
don't know,
20-inch
Steve.
blizzard coming in, so that,
Maybe get pushed off anyways.
there you go. So I just need a motion to schedule a public hearing for the wireless facility local law on January 10th.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second proposal is for accessory structures?
I just want to point out, and the next one is also, so that's a zoning amendment, and the resolution requests two things. One is the Suffolk County Planning Commission referral to be made, but also a referral to our own planning commission. You hear that, Joe?
That's on item, it's the second one, the accessory
Both of
structure.
Both of them.
Both of them. The wireless and the next one, both zoning amendments, and that's required under our statute.
And Wayne, can you give an example of quasi-municipal?
That's what your code actually defines. I don't know, quasi-municipal might be a public utility
Okay.
building. You know, sometimes that's been considered like LIPA or whatever PSEG building has been,
Like a
they're
water
public
tower.
utilities, so they're
Water
quasi.
Water tower.
So
Yeah.
County Water
Okay.
Authority Tower.
Yeah,
Okay.
That
that's
might be,
perfect example.
Just because people will ask us, and we better know.
yeah, that's the way your existing code is written, so that,
Okay.
we didn't change that, but, so Steve, do you got a vote to schedule the hearing?
Do you want to explain the accessory structure?
No, the first one you did.
Wireless, we're done, yes.
So the second one is something, you know, as, this is an amendment that comes based on the monitoring of certain actions that occur at the Zoning Board of Appeals and through the boards. And when you get a lot of applications that are almost routinely granted at the Zoning Board of Appeals, notwithstanding the legal tests that they have to go through, but you see that the zoning board is granting the relief time after time after time. And one of those is the issue, we define in our code a front yard as the space between the street and the building, and the principal building, the dwelling. And then we also have a second section that talks about a front yard setback requirement. So notwithstanding your front yard, you have both for the dwelling and the accessory structure, a front yard setback or a street setback. If you comply with the street setback, it doesn't matter. So what happens is, in particular, waterfront lots, up and down the entire ocean front and any of our ponds and whatnot, have been several applications that, and there's a couple that are just in front of the zoning board at the next upcoming meeting, another case or two, where the house is set back towards the dune, and the front yard is technically that space, even if they're 200 feet from the street, the space between the dwelling and the street. And our code actually says they should put the accessory structure not in the front yard, so that means you're supposed to put your garage, your pool, your tennis court on the ocean side of the house, or the water side of the house, which, as you know, has its environmental constraints and whatnot. So many people come, they apply, they ask for the variance to allow the accessory structure to be located within the front yard, that space between the house and the street. Many cases, they comply with the street setback. In cases of tennis courts, you know, they all have to be screened and the like, but many of these cases go to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and they're almost routinely granted. I've seen decisions that talk about our long-standing policy, which technically a zoning board doesn't have, but it's just an indication of the precedent that they've granted so many other cases and that they're just following their own precedent, and it's routinely granted. To me, that is one of those things, why are we keep sending someone to the Zoning Board of Appeals? It cries out for fixing the code. So we also find that occurring on corner lots. As you know, we have 2 front yards. And what happens is, you know, an accessory structure, whether it be a garage or a pool, usually on these small lots come in and they can't put it in either one of the sides, and they can't fit, so they need this variance to go in the front yard. So they're the two circumstances that keep coming up. So this proposal is actually stating that on waterfront properties and corner lots, you can locate an accessory structure within the front yard, provided you meet that required street setback. And therefore, you don't have to go for that variance in those circumstances. On a corner lot, this can only occur on one of the front, one front yard. You can't put it on both front yards. But, so that's what this proposal is about. And this was to schedule a public hearing for January 10th. And this would have to go to both planning commissions as well.
Planning Commission,
Suffolk County Planning
Suffolk
Commission
County
and our
and-
Village Planning
okay.
Commission.
So this is waterfront and corner lot only, is that correct?
Correct. All other circumstances, you can't put it in the front yard.
It's really to eliminate the constant load on the ZBA.
I understand that.
And of course, if they don't meet the setback, they have to get the variance. And then we have one of those cases as well. We have somebody that's not in the front yard, but they can't meet the street setback on a corner lot. So, they will continually to have to come to the zoning board.
Any comments or discussion?
well, I hear a lot of it on the waterfront lots and agree. On the corner lots, I haven't heard it as frequently, but that just could be my experience. I don't know about,
Well, there's not as many corner
Right, right.
lots as there is. So you wouldn't.
Corner lots have always been difficult, though, because of the front yard, and primarily because of, like, swimming pools. Very often, there isn't enough room, either in the rear yard, and they need to push it over, and the setback you can't.
Yeah, and part of the test often is, part of the zoning board test, is impact on the character of the neighborhood. Most parcels have pools or whatever. You're not really talking tennis courts. The tennis courts come up on the large lots on the ocean, but
Right.
the inherent practical difficulty on a corner lot is there, and that's one of the first things the zoning board is dealing with. And so that's the recognition here as well.
Right.
So we'll schedule a public hearing on January 10th.
Got a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
second?
All in favor?
So the next two
February.
are two laws.
That's right, I made a typo there. That should be February 22nd.
Are two laws that this board has been discussing for several months. You've held informal informational meetings with many people who are interested in regulation of particular unnecessary noise coming from construction, property maintenance, or landscaping on gas-powered leaf blowers. And in particular, you reached out to the landscape community, including the Nassau Suffolk Landscape Association or whatever. I'm sure I didn't get that correct, but, and the input that you got was that, they're not necessarily supporting, but they wouldn't be opposed if it was limited in nature, seasonal, but their concern was that most of the companies that are providing services here determine that they can comply and they can do this, but there's other companies out there that aren't complying with the code or the noise code, whatever's in place already, and they had a strong suggestion that they might be in support of this if you also had some sort of registration for landscaping. So we reviewed this, and lo and behold, this approach And these two laws that should be held the same night and sort of in tandem, because I think one without the other really doesn't mean anything. We found that the village of Irvington actually adopted a couple of years ago a very similar approach. They had some different timing as to when, where, and how leaf blowers and the like could be utilized. But they actually adopted, and I modeled our proposed landscaper registration after their law. Now, I've had a discussion with Kim, and we both are attempting, I don't know if you were successful, trying to reach out and finding out how successful they've been in the last year or two since they adopted the law. But the registration would require, and I don't know if you caught this, has a definition of a landscaper as any person over the age of 18. Because Kim and I had a discussion of what do we do with the teenager who's mowing, my lawn down the street, kind of thing. But any person over the age of 18, corporation, partnership, or business, entity of any form who tends, plants, installs, maintains, or repairs lawns, gardens, hedges, flower beds, shrubbery, trees, or landscaping of any kind on real property which such person or business entity does not own or which he or she does not reside. And what it will require is an annual registration. And we modeled this to some of the language to sort of follow the process in which you deal with your beach stickers. And they would come in with an annual registration. There is an application, and we can talk about the requirements of that, but then it would result in registration tags or stickers that could go on every car or vehicle or truck that landscaper utilizes, so that it would clearly identify that they have a permit, and it makes it easy to enforce. If the landscaper doesn't have that on the vehicle, that'll be a starting point, inquiry, are you registered or are you not? And then, but the actual registration requires, and this is the emphasis, was their knowledge of the existing rules and regulations, particular as to the time in which you regulate construction or property maintenance or landscaping, the hours, but more importantly, the rules regarding gas-powered leaf blowers, so that they're familiar. And it also requires, if it's a business entity, that all their employees are also familiar with that. So they're acknowledging, that, number one. Number two, and similar to what the Village of Irvington did, is it would require the landscaper to show they have a valid and current Suffolk County home improvement license. And the county has certain registration requirements, including, and they actually state in their application process, if the landscaper uses or intends to use regulated chemicals or pesticides, proof of applicable New York State DEC certificate must be submitted. That's a current rule right now, and if you're doing that, you have to have that, and you have to be able to show that. In addition, if the landscaper uses or intends to apply fertilizer products, proof of certificate of completion of the Suffolk County Nitrogen Fertilizer Turf Management course must be submitted. And this is a requirement already for the county. So we're just emphasizing, if they're already doing that, then give us copies of that. And so that is the registration requirement. As far as the regulations, we already have a section of our code, Chapter 78, that deals with nuisances. And certain nuisances, it prohibits nuisances and it defines nuisances, but it also goes further in some instances, actually has a declaration by the village that there's certain activities that are, by the nature of their activity, a public nuisance. In this instance, we are declaring that the unnecessary noise from construction, property maintenance, and landscaping and gas-powered leaf blowers during certain hours of the day or the week or the year are declared to be public nuisances. You do not have to get involved in trying to determine if the activity is occurring. In other words, am I hearing the leaf blower? Am I is it exceeding a certain decibel reading, which is your current regulation under the noise code? Is the actual act or activity is declared to be a public nuisance, and therefore it's easier to enforce by the village. The time periods for construction, and this is always a lot of people, it comes up in the building department is, oh, we don't allow construction during certain hours, and it's not in the code. What you have is a noise ordinance that says certain level of noise can't take place, and the exception to that is construction that occurs between certain hours of the day. And that's the current regulations, and everybody treats that as if it's a prohibition, but it doesn't prohibit construction. This actually would. This proposal will during the same, and it's the same hours that we have under our noise code. So it's 8 to 6 during the weekday, no earlier than 9 to 5 on Saturdays, and construction work's prohibited on Sunday and all federal and state holidays. It goes further. We talk about property maintenance and landscaping. We make sure that things like swimming pool maintenance and snow plowing isn't covered in that. That's exempt, and cleanup after major storms, but again, follows the same hours. And then the gas-powered leaf blowers, as this board has talked about, it's not a total ban, that you're concerned about regulating the activity between May 15th and September 30th, basically the summer season. So this would prohibit the use of gas-powered leaf blowers between those dates. After those dates, between October 1st and May 14th, you then just prohibit them before 8 o'clock and after 6 o'clock on any weekday, and no earlier than 9 and later than 5 on Saturdays, and then nothing on Sunday and a federal holiday. And there's a couple other requirements. It doesn't apply to an emergency or a cleanup after a major storm. It allows certain clubs and other municipal employees to use them, as long, in the regular performance of their regular duties. It also prohibits walk-behind leaf blowers on properties less than a half acre, and no more than 2 handheld or backpack leaf blowers at a time on a property unless it exceeds a half acre. These are similar to the standards that have come out of the Village of Irvington, but I think it's a good starting point for discussion. And these 2 laws are proposed to be scheduled for a public hearing on January 22nd.
Can you go back to the one-person blower, backpack blower, on less than a half acre?
2.
2, but what was right before that?
Walk-behind leaf blowers, the large
Machines.
machine.
Oh, okay.
So you don't want those on, because they're bigger and noisier, and
So gas-
that's their,
So what I'm reading here is gas is prohibited from May 15th to September 30th. Can they use electric and/or battery powered?
this only prohibits gas-powered. So all those, if it's electric, they're free to use them year-round. I know that's been a discussion, because in some cases, they may be noisy also, but not, the whole theory is they're not as noisy. That's been the science behind it so far.
I think scheduling both these hearings simultaneously is important, and it's been a long time coming.
I think it'll be a packed room. I think it'll be a packed room. I mean, what I heard when we had that meeting and all the landscapers came, what I got out of it was they all do want to move in this direction. However, they said that the equipment is not quite there yet. That's what I heard. So
You mean
maybe
the electric?
the electric
And they said
and the
it's
gas power.
costly, and there
And
was,
it's very,
there
and
was
it's
another,
costly.
there was another component about maybe if there was some phasing in of the requirement for electric, or some way that they could get some sort of grant or reimbursement for.
Yeah, because it's expensive. These guys have to go out and buy tons of them, and,
But I think part of the problem there was identifying a funding source for you to even provide that kind of seed money or grant program. So, I mean,
We did
that was a
look at that.
suggestion by, I remember, by the association as well. So that may come up in the hearings, and you could consider that as well.
I think the not allowing two people on two leaf blowers on one property less than a half acre is terrific, because that's probably one of our biggest complaints.
Yeah, it is.
On the small lots, 3 or 4 guys lining up and blowing the property, yeah.
But the issue there, which we also heard, is even if it was one person in the smaller lots, there could be 10 one person standing,
Well, there could be a number of
right,
people
a
in
number of
different
people
lots.
standing amongst different lots, and the,
Well, because they come down the street and they handle like a good portion of the street. I mean, they might have 5 clients on that street, and
Yep.
so they have 5 different people on 5 different properties, creating a lot of noise.
Well, the good thing is that it's not going to be during the summer season. So now you're talking primarily the fall and the fall cleanup probably, but that's what that's intended to do, is
Listen,
try
we've
to
had
limit it on the
complaints about
smaller
fall
lots.
cleanup too, and I was sort of like, how do you handle, I mean,
Well, it's
it's a tool that
difficult.
people have learned to use now. And raking, even though I do still see people raking,
Not many.
yeah, no, but I have seen them.
I've seen an increase in people raking. They've heard our meetings. and I
Maybe you
think
can supply rakes to people.
Thank you, Wayne. No, but I think that the majority of the complaints that we get during the summer months are a reflection of noise, construction, along with the leaf blowers. So, it's very important that we get that down. And it's very difficult to enforce if it's strictly based on a noise issue. And I think, Wayne, you and I have had that argument numerous times, so I think that if you are going to regulate it, you're going to regulate it in just a time frame when the windows are open and you're trying to enjoy the outside, and you just eliminate it totally. So that's our intent.
Eliminate not even battery operated ones?
No, we eliminate 2-stroke
Okay,
leaf blowers.
okay. Are you putting this on the agenda too?
We should forbid deciduous trees.
There you go.
That might be,
Only about 1 million of them.
that may be easier, though.
if only the deer could eat the leaves, then we wouldn't have a problem.
Yeah,
Except that we'd have more deer and very healthy ones.
Right, we don't want that either.
So if you're going to consider these, I strongly recommend that you do them simultaneously, the same.
Right.
they
I
they
agree.
need to be done.
You need 2 resolutions, though, to schedule.
Yeah. Okay, so start, excuse me, with a resolution scheduling a public hearing on leaf blowers on 1/22/2019.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And we'll schedule a public hearing on landscaper registration, 1/22/2019.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
The only thing that I would suggest is that the landscaper registration probably be the first hearing and then the leaf blowers afterwards.
My suggestion
It's gonna
is
be a
to the
shock.
extent that the people that you've had discussions with or meetings, particularly the Long Island Landscape Association, we make sure we send them a copy so that they can review and provide us input.
Yep.
I'm sure they'll hear about it, but
And
sooner than later.
the landscapers.
Well, we reached out to all the, large, long-standing landscaping owners to come to our last meeting, and we've had conversations. I don't know where they are on having conversations with the community that is in favor of the electric leaf blower, but that was an outcome that they had committed to, so that's something we should probably check into. But it's 5 weeks out, so everyone can ponder this.
One question, how long can an electric leaf blower blow before it has to be recharged?
A battery operated, electric you plug in, a battery operated.
I'm sorry, well, I meant,
The battery operated ones, they were claiming.
5 hours, I think, right?
Well, yeah, they were claiming they get a whole day's use out of them. Yeah, they've come a long ways in battery technology. Even the electric lawnmowers, they go over a day, you know, on full use. So.
Phone doesn't go that.
Phones don't go down. Well, you talk a lot, so.
Okay, item 7, we have the annual walk-run, the American Heart Association, Heart Run, and they're requesting May 18th, 2019. Standard route that we approve every year. On a Saturday.
I think it's the same time every year, too, isn't it? Yeah.
There's 3 levels.
Yep. Yeah, they go out 3 different lengths of the rides.
So we approve this, and then do they go to the town and get the approval from the town as well?
Yeah, because it's a large run.
Yeah, it
so
is.
it's, you know,
Yeah.
they're covering all kinds of areas, yeah.
Yeah, because it's 27 to 50 and 100 miles.
Right.
So they go with the.
I think 100 goes out to Montauk, right? Or-
Yeah, so they have to hit all the
Right.
towns and get approvals from. But
But they start and end in the
and they
village.
start and end by rotations. Yeah.
I think I skipped that one, huh?
I would.
Yeah, it's a standard.
So I'll make a motion to accept the walk-run of American Heart Association,
Second,
5/18.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next item is with respect to the 2019 Southampton Fest. As you know, this year, 2018, we had closed Main Street from by the Chamber all the way over to Hampton Road, which turned out to be a very successful closure. In meeting with the committee for 2019, the suggestion is that we close Job's Lane next year rather than Main Street, only for the continuity of the flow of people, and it's just they felt last year for 2018 it was too separated. It was the activities were down in Agawam, and then the other activities were all up on Main Street, and they just felt kind of disconnected. So the suggestion was to, you know, close Job's Lane, bring the art vendors onto Job's Lane itself, have the soccer activities and the hockey and the basketball, you know, also on Job's Lane, us between the Monument Square and Besson's. So they just want to bring it up to the board to get some thoughts, and
I thought the
You guys are
purpose
okay
of
with it
having
to,
that, I thought the purpose of having that on Main Street was to bring some activity up to Main Street, because really basically all the activity was down at the foot of Job's Lane, which meant that all the shops, this was to promote, you know, some vitality within the community and get people shopping. And I mean, I've heard from some shops that they feel like there's nothing, that, you know, everything is all about what goes on in the park, and they don't really feel that much of it. That's what I thought. I thought it was disconnected too, I will say that.
right.
But I have great concern over the event. I think it's wonderful for the people in the community, which is what it's really all about. But I think also we were trying to, you know, create some sort of activity in the off-season so that the retail properties would benefit from that. and I don't know if they are. What do you feel?
Well, I think that any time that you bring additional foot traffic into the village, retail operations benefit. Because most retail operations pick up activity with volume. You know, so...
Except all the volume is down there.
Well, I think that's part of the reason that you're looking to, close off Job's Lane, is to bring him up Job's Lane. I think what happened before, we had Main Street closed off, and Job's Lane was still operating as normal, so people didn't make the transverse on up to Main Street. Hopefully they'll come up Job's Lane, I mean, you never know, and then go down Main Street.
I remember when we closed Main Street and the businesses were outraged that we closed Main Street because they wanted people to be able to drive and still park in front of their businesses and go in. Remember?
That was the first year.
That was the first year.
Yeah, we did that 3 weekends in a row. That was
"Do
a huge mistake.
Yeah.
don't do it ever again."
Yeah, you
I don't
can't
know
do
how
it.
Job's Lane will, I don't know, because Job's Lane is a different parking situation. It's a parallel parking, and, I just don't know how it's going to.
I think one of the other things too this year or in 2019 that will be different is the History Museum has already said that because we're switching our date and it will be September 20th to the 22nd, that they will again be a part of it with the Harvest Day Fair.
Oh, good.
Which this year they
So
did
that
not
should
do.
bring- yeah.
They did Harvest Day Fair on Columbus Day weekend, and so it was separate, so there wasn't that reason to go down that way. So I think this year, again, the thought is that if Job's Lane could be closed for Saturday, Harvest Day Fair will kind of be at the end, and then it will encourage people to just go from the park, down Job's to the History Museum, and then hopefully further down onto Main Street as well. And we will still have music and things down on Main Street. It's just that they felt to close Job's Lane would be more beneficial. And I did speak with Chief Cummings and Lieutenant Wetter to see if they would be okay with it. And they said as long as the board was fine with from the police department standpoint, it would not be an issue, and they would make sure that the ambulances, everything was rerouted, and they did not see a problem on their end. So they were okay with it.
I'd say also that I know somebody who's retail pretty well on
I think
Job's
you
Lane.
do.
Let me tell you, if there's anything that goes out of whack on Job's Lane, I hear about it in 2 seconds, and they were very responsive to it. They thought it would be okay.
Hope so. If it isn't, we will hear about it.
We will.
Real quick.
But I do think a key would be, and that was something that was done this year, the chamber went around to every single business that would have been affected on Main Street a month in advance and gave them notice that in fact we were going to be closing it during that time so that they had ample time. And also encouraged them to participate with sidewalk sales or other means to bring people into their stores. So I think if we do the same thing for Job's Lane, then hopefully that will help and get them to participate and be more active maybe.
Yeah, no, I think it will. And the other thing to contemplate is we have SAC there right in the middle of Job's Lane.
Yes.
And that was very difficult for the vendors that were there because people sort of skipped it and then went to Main Street.
And I have spoken with their executive director also, and he was very enthused about the idea, thought that there would, it would open up some additional possibilities for them too.
On both sides of Job's Lane, you have parking behind those
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
stores,
Yeah.
so
And-
that's an added benefit.
And we'd also planned to have that street open by 6 o'clock so that it wouldn't affect reservations for dinner or
Dinner,
anything
right.
like that. That would be a big issue.
Yeah, right.
Don't wanna do that.
Well, that's good. And do we need a resolution on that or anything?
I would suggest it,
Okay.
just so we have something formal that we're on the record for it, so that the committee can plan accordingly.
And then, so I will make a resolution in the 2019 Southampton Fest, that we close down Job's Lane for would that be on Saturday?
Saturday.
Saturday.
Just Saturday.
What's the date?
September 21st.
Okay.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 9, Wayne, license agreement for HW Partnership.
So if the board recalls, you had a presentation a few months ago. FHW Limited Partnership are the 3 lots on the western side of Pond Lane. And they had come to you for a proposal to, they want to undertake some revegetation and landscaping along their frontage of their lots, but also that extends into the right-of-way of Pond Lane and inclusive of a rain garden drainage facility, which is designed not only to handle some of the runoff from their own property, but more importantly, to take some of the runoff that comes down Pond Lane that currently would overflow into Lake Agawam. So the board had reviewed that, and it went to the Zoning Board of Appeals. A special wetlands permit was issued after review and some tweaking of the plan. And it was all, of course, all subject to a license agreement being worked out and, authorized by this board. I've worked with the applicant's attorney. They have submitted a executed license agreement in the form that I find acceptable. In addition, because this is work that would be within our right-of-way, we had Gary Gillespie look at it, but more importantly, we believe in this case that they need to guarantee that work. And what we requested was a performance bond in the amount of the estimated cost of the work, which was supplied by the landscape architect, in the amount of $127,000. So we have, I've received documents. In fact, Steve has already received the actual letter of credit we have in our possession. And this resolution would authorize the execution of the license agreement by the mayor and also would accept the performance bond to guarantee that work. We've also received the requisite insurance certificates naming the village as additional insureds as well.
It's a great project.
It is.
And they're paying for the entire project, too.
The entire cost is to them, and that's
Right.
why you required the bond, is to make sure that it gets done.
Right.
Any questions or
No, I think it's great.
any comments?
Anything that intercepts runoff is a pretty good deal.
Oh, it's
They
great
made it
deal.
look nice.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion on a resolution to authorize a license agreement to permit FHW Limited Partnership, Frederick Wyman II and Carol Ann Wyman, to construct drainage facilities and landscaping within the right-of-way of Pond Lane and accept performance bond to guarantee work.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and the last item is parking on Jagger Lane. Back in October, Southampton Soap Company had requested 2 short-time parking spots in front of their store. The board had asked Gary Gillespie to look into that, and I believe he had a conversation with you, Mike, with respect to that.
Yep.
So the question is whether you want to move forward on that?
The issue that he presented was there's a time frame on the parking that's there now, that in the summer months it's 1 hour parking, and in the winter months it's 2 hour parking. And there's no signages. I think there's one old sign there, and the signage is very poor. So without scheduling a parking public hearing on that street, I'm not sure how you would go about limiting the hours.
Well,
Could you do 1 hour?
Well, certainly you can do that. So the first question is, I didn't look at this particularly as to the code language, but if you're telling me that Gary looked at it already and the statute, I think he did. I saw an email that says that it's already limited, as you just suggested, Michael.
Right.
And this letter is actually requesting either 30-minute or 1-hour parking. So if that in fact is a 1-hour parking now, all we need to do is, and that's within the statute, all you need to do is get the signage correct. But if it's not and you want to change it, then I would have to draft the local law to amend the code so that, similar to, you did some time parking, particularly the 15-minute parking in front of Tate's Bait Shop, that kind of thing. So we could look at that, and the suggestion there is 30 minutes to 1 hour.
Well, maybe
That's
you
tough
could-
because you got
Yeah.
the Stop and Shop and you have the drugstore and the dry cleaning, all those things. So you want to encourage somebody not getting in their car every 10 minutes going from one parking lot to another, so.
Maybe you could
I didn't
take
think
a
an
look
hour
at
was
it.
enough, quite honestly. For 30 minutes, it would be limiting it to just a quick in and out of maybe, even going to pick up a prescription may not. Sometimes you have to wait. But I was concerned during the summertime. I know it was 1 hour during the summer and 2 hours during the
remember,
winter.
I think it was 1 hour or
But sometimes you
something
go
like that.
food shopping and you can't get in and out in an hour.
Sometimes.
But this complaint apparently is similar to some of the other complaints that you heard that prompted the review of these things, that there's some cars and probably employees perhaps that are parking
sure
in the
that's
same
true.
location, taking up
And not
spaces
moving.
that should be more transient, whether it be an hour or 2 hours or whatnot. The complaint here is they're parking all day. So I'll look at this with Gary, and then, but I guess the question here is, do you want, if it's not already, as Michael suggested, 1 hour or 2 hours, do you want to do something different than that?
I don't care. Personally, I'm thinking 2 hours, but the fact that somebody's parking there all day, if it's 2 hours and they're parking there all day, they deserve a ticket. So I think we need to
Problem
police
is the
that.
signage, though. That, you know,
Yeah.
if that's what the code says now, then it's a matter of making sure the signage is there.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe you could take a look at it, Wayne, you can see what the division is between the hour and the 2 hour. Whether or not there's dates assigned to it.
So what I'm hearing is clearly the board's not inclined to go to a half-hour parking.
No.
I think we need to police it. If in fact they're concerned that people, employees or whatever, are parking on the street, we need to police that. Plus, the soap company has parking behind it, I believe.
Does.
So it's not like they're missing out on a customer parking there. But I can understand their frustration if somebody pulls their car there and sits there all day. I agree with that.
Yeah. I can understand that. That ends our discussion item. Can't wait till January. So we have comments from board members. Trustee Allen.
Yes. I have to get my notes out, excuse me. So we had a very good senior holiday party this past Wednesday, December 12th, at the Southampton History Museum, and I thank Tom Edwins and Nicole Hart and the many volunteers who made it happen, Judy Johnson and Mimi and Helen and Santa, and we heard Peter Nikowich sing. As a reminder for upcoming events, we are having our first ever youth career panel this coming Wednesday, December 19th, right here in this room from 3:30 to 5:30. We have a tremendous lineup of individuals across an array of different careers, whether that be academic or trade academic, from an airline pilot to a pilot in training, and master plumbers and technicians and chefs and horticulturalists. So for those who are watching, I'm assuming it's the parents of prospective high school students and parents who have children in college who may not have figured out what they want to do yet. This is a great opportunity for your sons and daughters to understand the array of careers, and many of the that are out here that can be for which the skills can be acquired right here in the very neighborhood of Southampton and Riverhead. We have a lot of tremendous academic institutions that teach a variety of skills. But the reason why we held this is we hear so often that many of our community don't want to move away. They actually want to have a career and make a living here, and you can actually do that. And many of the panelists are here, and they have made a good living here and will continue to do so, and they want to share that. So we hope you come, and if your children are coming home from college, please tell them that this coming Wednesday we were having this event. We'd like to see you there. And then I guess since this is the last meeting before the end of the year, it seems unbelievable that we're heading into 2019. I just wanted to thank everybody that has helped us during the year. The volume of volunteers is beyond anything I've ever seen. And thank you to our many village volunteers, as well as our team of village employees and the many residents who've approached us with their really good feedback and ideas. Each and every one of you that come to these meetings. Sometimes my stomach churns a bit when I see your expression on your face, and I'm thinking, oh no, what have we done now? But it's actually very good that you come and give us feedback, because that's what we're here for. And I also wanted to thank Mayor Irving and Trustee Yastrzemski, Trustee McGann, and Trustee Hattrick, as well as Steve and Julie and our counselor. You can't say anything, though. Mostly for your good discussion and collaboration and debate for this year. So may peace and joy be with you during this season and for the new year.
All right, thank you, Trustee Allen. Nicely said.
That was wonderfully said.
Yep.
Thank you.
I've had a good
Mine will
year.
not be as good.
That's not true.
It's allowed.
It's
No,
always
it
good.
will not be, I can tell you that right now. Short and sweet.
Okay, Trustee McGann.
I don't have all that much, but we had a meeting this past week, the mayor and I, and with Gary Gillespie regarding the youth center that we are now involved in putting together for what is part of the playground, the expansion of the playground off of behind in the O'Connell parking lot. So we've been working with different manufacturers for buildings. One was outrageously expensive. We decided we couldn't do that. We came up with someone else. We think the building is quite nice. We hopefully, we will have something put together so that we can bring it out at the next meeting and show the public what we're interested in doing over there. And do you have
That'd be
anything to
great.
add on that?
Well, I think that if we can accomplish that, it would be
Yeah.
a great accomplishment,
Yeah.
because the input when we've been looking at expanding that park there has always been about that middle youth group and
Right.
not having a facility for them.
Hopefully
And,
they'll use it.
if we can swing this and get it done,
Yeah.
it's a big asset to the village.
And then also, I know there's been a lot of inquiries about Moses Lane and what's going on over there, and, they are in there, Gary's in there, and we're creating the path, the walking path. We put some millings down, we're probably a quarter of the way there, but that probably will not be picked up again until after the holidays, weather permitting, because they're still picking up leaves, and there's just so much to clean up still in the village, and then we had Christmas decorating and all that. So that will be, that's a priority. We discussed that, so we're hoping to get that up and running again right after the holidays, weather permitting. And to follow Trustee Allen, I wish everybody a really wonderful holiday season, and to get out and enjoy our village because it looks beautiful, and I hope everybody stays safe. And I actually want to thank all of our village employees because they have done a terrific job, and everyone here in Village Hall has been terrific as well, and we all know that. but I wish everybody a really wonderful holiday season.
And shop
And happy,
local.
yes, shop local. And happy New Year, because we probably won't see you until
Yeah.
after the New Year. Stay safe over New Year's Eve.
And if I could just add to the Moses Lane,
Yeah.
I think that'd be, to me, a really exciting spot for the public, because there is no place you can walk in the village of Southampton that you can walk without cars going by you and all sorts of
Right.
activity. And if we can finish up that walking path, and a great place to go and stroll, and if you have young children to go down there, or walk your dog through there, and it's just, that's a nice, wide open piece of property. When we get it cleaned up,
Yeah.
it's going to look really good.
It'll be great. And then
Yeah.
eventually, we will have tennis courts over there, which will be, and bocce ball courts. So, and we may even throw in some pieces of adult exercise equipment along the way. So,
Oh, no, we can't get too much in shape.
so we've looked into that, because Compan has a great selection of that, and that would be terrific over there. So, anyway, that's what I have.
Thank you. As always, Trustee Hattrick?
Just a couple of minor things. I think our brother Ken Zay had his fourth stint here in the last 24 hours, and hopefully he'll come through and keep on
Boy.
running. I think he's just a great story. One thing I wanted to mention that I was kind of bowled over by when President Bush died recently at his funeral. One of those speakers said something that any of you who go to church ought to tell your pastor what this man said. That Bush had told him, I think he quoted President Bush as saying this, preach the gospel daily, even use words if necessary, which is, you start chewing on that and you realize, in other words, it's better to show somebody how to do something than sit there and tell it, you know. And I thought that was worth repeating. Yeah. Then as being in charge of mirth, I have one last little joke to tell you for this year. This elderly widow was home on a weekend, and all of a sudden the phone rings late in the afternoon, and it's low, and said, ma'am, this is Mrs. Smith, this is Western Union, we have a telegram for you. She said, oh, God, wonderful. She said, a singing telegram? He said, oh, no. He said, oh, please, oh, sing it. She said, oh, we don't really do that anymore. She said, oh, please, at my age, I'll never have another chance. And he said, well, I don't even think it's an appropriate message, but she said, oh, gosh, wouldn't you just for a little old lady do that? She said, well, okay, if you think it's the right thing to do, here we go. Dun, 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 dun. Your sister Rose just died. That's it, kids. Merry Christmas to all.
Thank you, Trustee Hatchett.
Merciful.
That was merciful. A couple of quick things. Trustee Yuzgremski isn't here tonight because his son is in a concert, I believe, today.
I think
And-
the daughter, musical concert, I think, yeah.
Daughter? Okay.
It's a beautiful voice.
Oh, yeah, both of them are
Well,
so...
one plays, I think, instrument, and the other one
Yeah,
sings.
both of them are pretty gifted, and the son is very impressive. He talks with such confidence.
Yeah, he really grew up with
Oh.
it. Oh my God.
Does he have a beard?
No.
No.
Good.
My son.
And then I want to thank, all our departments in the village, because the village is looking spectacular, and a lot of people have mentioned it, and it takes a collaborative effort of everybody to make something as spectacular as Southampton Village is.
And I think they're
This
very
season.
proud. I mean,
Well,
we had the
they should be
village
proud.
Christmas party, and you can tell
Yep.
that they are so proud of how great our village looks. You can just feel it,
They
Don't
should
you
be.
agree? Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
they should
And
be.
they
They
should
did a
be.
great
Yeah.
job.
Right.
Yep. And then a special thanks to the polar bear plunge last Saturday. There's a very funny photograph it was on 27 East, I don't know if it still is, this, two normal-looking individuals there, but they just got done with a polar bear plunge. Then there's this penguin sort of spacing out into nowhere.
Look at that penguin you've been.
I can't imagine. Soaking wet, looking as miserable as a penguin can possibly get. And I got to say, when I saw that picture, I sort of
I
cracked
thought
up.
most penguins like cold
Not that
and
one.
cold water.
This penguin didn't, let me tell you.
Still thawing out.
A wet penguin outfit stuck on you is pretty impressive. So anyway, it was a great day. There were a lot of people there. I think there were more than I've seen in a while. And, Hilton says that there were 400 people in attendance.
Wow.
That's a big
It was
crowd.
a big crowd.
And the most exciting part, I think he wanted to raise 100,000, but to date, he's still counting, but he's at 87, so,
People can still donate.
Yeah, exactly.
This is going to get there.
And we get double matched for jumping in.
I think we should get triple. And then there was the seniors' holiday party, which Trustee Allen put on with the History Museum and Tom, and it was great turnout.
I didn't do anything. It was all Judy and Lori and Nicole, but it was great.
Oh, it was great. You had Peter Ludlam on the
Yes.
piano, and you had Nicolich singing,
Right.
and hearing them all sing carols was spectacular. I even tried, but
And they had cookies, and more cookies.
Yeah, they're
A
front now.
big sugar rush over there.
then we also, the next two Saturdays, we have a country holiday activity in the village. We got the horse and buggy rides from 12:30 to 3:30. I saw them go by last weekend, and there were people hanging off the back. It was classic.
Oh, boy.
I saw that poor old horse, and I was going, oh. I hope it's okay. Everybody, I stress to you all so strongly, shop locally, visit the village. This village is looking spectacular. Visit the stores. Often if you visit these small stores locally, you can find things that you just can't anywhere else. So it's
Everything
well.
I'm wearing is local. I wanted to point that out today.
That's perfect.
I didn't buy it all this year or today, but all from Maine and Joe's.
Yeah, it's, you don't realize it, but you can really get some spectacular stuff. And most importantly, since this is our really last meeting of the year, I got to wish everybody very happy holidays and a Merry Christmas, and most importantly, a safe and healthy new year, and it looks like we're going to be pretty busy in January. And I thank you all for being here. And with that, we have our second public comment. Is there anybody who would like to make a comment?
Sheila.
Sheila?
Everyone seems to assume I want to say something, so I'll have to live up to that. Sheila Pfeiffer on Hildreth Street, and I do want to say I haven't seen the Christmas decorations in over 15 years, and the village is spectacular. It's just kind of chokes me up. Anyway, but I also want to ask, because I've missed meetings and I don't, the last time I heard a discussion about Layton Avenue parking, it was said that there was going to be lines drawn.
Yeah, we haven't done that yet.
And, okay, because I actually realized I didn't check today, but I see the signs were changed and the people have moved, but you can already see that there's uneven parking and wasted space because of the lack of lines. And a number of people who live there said, I don't understand why they didn't draw the lines before the cars were moved, because now they're going to have to do some kind of spectacular thing to get everyone to move to draw the lines. So, but you are planning to draw the lines?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it will be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Come on, Joe.
Okay.
Charlie?
No takers. Any comments from the trustees? So with that, I make a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters involving village employees.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.